Hey everyone, it's Liz here. I have been MIA again, as you may have been able to see on my channel. Has been no, that was just Mo going crazy. There's been no videos. This is because I was in hospital again. The title is not clickbait, it's true. So if you haven't already watched my last video, click up here. I was in hospital 7 weeks. I came home and thought I was okay. I think when I did my video, I had only just got home from hospital, and I was on vancomycin, which is what I was on to treat the C. diff. General health update is that I haven't got the feeling back in my feet or my legs. I'm waiting to see the neurologist. I've got a referral to go there. But my mobility's improved. I'm moving around with my frame. And yeah. So what happened was I was home for a total of 10 days after my discharge last time. I was on the vancomycin for a week. And then as soon as I stopped that on the Monday, on the Wednesday, I was like, I feel sick again, but didn't think much of it. Then in the evening, had really bad diarrhea, just once or twice, and I thought, I still was like, no, it can't have come back. And then the next day, again, not till the evening, I had 4 or 5 lots of diarrhea, and I was like, something's not right. I didn't want to eat, and then I went to bed early, and I had terrible stomach pain. And I was in denial because obviously I'd spent 7 weeks in hospital and I didn't want to go back. And if the infection was back, I knew that from when I was last in that I would need more serious treatment. Sorry, that's just my cat, if you can hear that. So it got to about 11 o'clock at night and my husband came to bed and I said, I think it's back. So I phoned up 111, which is in the UK, that's like your out of hours health advice type thing, and they can do everything from Mo, get down. Mo's just right there. They can do everything from assess if you need to see an out of hours GP, if a GP needs to come to your house, if you need an ambulance to go to hospital, or if you need to just make your own way to hospital. So I phoned up, and because I couldn't have waited till the following morning, because anyone who's had C. diff knows how quickly it progresses and how much worse it gets without treatment. So basically I called 111, said I think my C. diff is back. So they arranged for a GP to call me on the phone. And luckily, first of all, it was a healthcare assistant who then basically said, oh, can you make your way down to your local hospital for the out of hours GP? I was like, I am infectious. I'm not allowed to leave the house to go to another place, like especially not a hospital where I caught the C. diff from. So I was, then I was told the GP would call me, the out of hours one, and I told him the history and all my symptoms that I had back. And he said, yeah, you need to urgently get to hospital. And I said, well, it has to be Addenbrooke's because of the isolation wards and also because they were the ones that treated me before. And to my surprise, he was like, completely agree. And he arranged an ambulance to come and get me. And they were amazing. They came in with their gloves, aprons, masks, everything because of my infection risk. Obviously I was in tears. I was on the phone to my mum because I was like, I can't go back. I don't want to go back. I've literally only just been home for 10 days and I was just so upset. But I was really had a better experience this time. I was put in isolation in A&E. They only have one isolation room and I was in there for 10 hours because they couldn't find me a bed. I had blood tests. I had stool sample tests. I had all sorts of stuff, but the doctor ultimately who saw me was like, yeah, you definitely, your C. diff's back, because the pain was actually worse this time than before, because before, when I just had the diarrhea, before I had only had the symptoms of the C. diff for a few days and straight on antibiotics. This time I wasn't on anything and the pain was unreal. It feels like someone has put their hand inside your stomach, swirled everything around, squeezed it, and then taken the hand out again. It's just the worst pain ever. On par with gallstones, really. That's what and I've had gallstones, so I know. So then I eventually went up to a ward. It wasn't the ward I was on before, but it was an infectious diseases ward. So again, all the rooms are isolation rooms. They had a weird thing that they said that the ward was airlocked and it has special pressurized rooms, but all the rooms, well, my room certainly, in the door there was a huge gap between the door and the frame, so I don't see how that's really infection controlled or pressurized rooms. But it had constant aircon on, which was freezing and really dried out my sinuses, so that was horrible. And for the first week I had no heating, so it was really cold. I was like living in my dressing gown. But the gastro doctor was like, well, obviously this is your third time of getting C. diff, because I got it twice when I was in for 3 weeks with it. So this time I've been in for 10 days. The first 2 days they put me straight back on the vancomycin, which obviously I needed. That helped me feel a bit better, but this time was horrific. I needed IV everything. I couldn't tolerate, or they didn't really work, even my paracetamol dispersible and stuff. I took some pictures and I will put these in now. So as you can see, it was a roller coaster of emotions. And anyway, on the Friday, they told me they were definitely going to do the fecal transplant, which is also known as FMT, which means fecal microbiome transplantation. This is like a last resort, because like if you've had C. diff quite a few times and the antibiotics have not really made it go away. So I was told that on Monday they would order it, because although Addenbrooke's does the procedure, you have to order the transplant from another hospital, and mine came from Birmingham. And that's where all the research is done too. So I basically was told it would be Wednesday, and Wednesday came and they said, actually, no, it's going to be Thursday. And I was so upset because I had myself psyched up for Wednesday. And at that stage, when you're in isolation, one extra day is really, really hard. Because luckily, because I'd been home, I got a new phone, so I had loads of data and I could watch YouTube and stuff. But the TV is really expensive at Addenbrooke's, and so I paid for it once or twice just because there was nothing else to do. You're not allowed to leave your room. The bathroom is it's small, and but the only good thing is I had good views, as you saw in the pictures. I could see like fields and it was nice, but it was really old, like style hospital. It needed modernising a lot. But nonetheless, the staff were nice and really understood. There wasn't always very good, all the nurses wore gloves and aprons, but the HCAs and the catering people didn't really. And I just thought that's not really very good on an infection control ward, because especially as I have C. diff. If they then passed it, I passed it to them and they passed it to another patient. That's really bad. But anyway, so Thursday they said was definite. So I asked about the bowel prep, but the communication between the doctors and the nurses was terrible. The doctors didn't tell the nurses anything. So I was like, if I don't have this bowel prep, I'm not going to have to have the procedure, and I don't want to get down there to have it done. And they say you can't have it because you haven't emptied your bowels. Although by this point, I'd pretty much not eaten for 5 days and had diarrhea. So there was nothing left in my stomach anyway, or my bowels. But they said, actually, because your bowels are so empty, we're going to give you an enema the morning of the procedure. And they told me it'd be 1 o'clock, but actually on the morning of the procedure, they told me it was 11 o'clock, which was even better. And so I had an enema that morning, which worked, which was because the nurse did it. Usually with me, enemas, literally within a minute, I have to like get rid of it. I can't hold it in, but this time I managed to hold it in for nearly 10 minutes. And so then within about half an hour, I went down for the procedure. I had to wait around for an hour though, so that was annoying. It wasn't 11, I didn't go in till about 12, but they were so busy there. And yeah, it's the weirdest thing. If you don't know what a fecal transplant is, basically with the enema, or if you have bowel prep, you can have it through an NG tube, but there was no way I was having that because I've got such a sensitive gag reflex. I would have just not kept it down. And so I'd had it via colonoscopy, and they basically put the colonoscopy camera, they go right up into the top of your bowel to check first that there's nothing else, which really hurt. They gave me sedation, which didn't do a thing. And so I had Entonox as well, because it was really painful because all my bowels inflamed, and then I had this tube going up me. And then basically they put a little tube, which at first they couldn't get through, so they had to give me a smaller one, that follows the camera up. And the donor, it's basically donor feces, so donor poo, but it goes through a really rigorous testing and all these different things. Like you have to be screened to be a donor. You have to also, they like refine it so it's like a liquid. So basically they start at the top of your bowel and slowly like inject, I suppose, into your bowel the donor feces, and they slowly bring it down the bowel basically. And I luckily found a really good Facebook group that's for people with C. diff, mostly from America, but there are people from all around the world. And that really helped me because the doctors didn't really seem to know much. They didn't tell me about what to expect afterwards, what was normal, what was not normal. So I was asking questions on my Facebook group because they didn't tell me what to expect. And so afterwards, when I'd had it done, I, within half an hour, felt amazing. Like the pain instantly went that I was having, the nausea instantly went. And by the evening, I was hungry. My husband was coming to visit me that day, and by 3 o'clock, I had my first lot of diarrhea. And I was like, oh my God, am I getting rid of all the transplant? Is it failed? Is that, I didn't know. And the next day they said, oh no, I think that's normal, but we're not really sure. And so for 3 days over the weekend, I didn't know because I had 3 lots of diarrhea on the day I had it. But it's like the fecal transplant's like having an enema. So you have all this stuff inside you, and it's not, your bowel's like, this isn't all supposed to be here, and it's like needing a massive poo. So, but apparently for the hours that the longer you keep it in, the better. So 3 hours was pretty good for me to keep it in. And in that time, the donor sample like attaches itself to your bowel, because basically with C. diff, your bowel is like a weed, and all the C. diff grows around it, and it's bad bacteria, and it just won't go. Whereas the transplant material attaches itself, and it's good bacteria, and it should eliminate the bad and all this. But there is a chance, I think 10 to 20% of people don't respond to the first one and might need another one. And in my head, I was like, I bet I'll be in that 10 to 20%, but hopefully not. So they kept me in over the weekend because I had it done on the Thursday last week. And because I had pain, like Friday I felt really good too, but then Saturday the pain came back, nausea came back, and I was convinced that was it, hadn't worked. But over the weekend there's just junior doctors on, so they don't really don't know a lot about that. They can only help with immediate basic issues. So on Monday morning, yesterday, I said about all this pain and stuff, and she said it's very normal to get that because your bowel is regrowing itself, really. But she said, especially with me, because I'm unique, because obviously I've got all these other health issues and having gastroparesis and IBS and Sjogren's, because that's autoimmune, just like Crohn's is autoimmune, that your body tries to reject like a donor type thing. It's like your immune system goes into overdrive rather than accepts that this is a good thing, not a bad thing. So yeah, so I was desperate to come home, and I was like, well, if I'm just going to have this pain and nausea at home, I can manage that myself, like just pain relief and anti-nausea, rather than being in hospital. So they let me home yesterday, and I have to go back in 4 to 6 weeks for a gastro checkup, and then, but also on my blood test, they said my liver, what do they call it? ALT levels are above normal. They said it's nothing to worry immediately about, but they want me to go to my GP and have them rechecked in a month. And I said, oh, that could be my Sjogren's. They didn't seem to know though. But with Sjogren's, it does affect your liver and kidneys. So I'm just a little bit worried that it's that, or it could just be that the CDIFF has just wrecked my abdomen. I don't know. So I'm home. I'm feeling okay. I'm really glad to be home, because now in total I would have been in hospital 2 months, even with the 10 days at home. So it's weird because I went in the summer and it was like August bank holiday, and now it's like bonfire night and it's November and I'm wearing a hoodie because I'm freezing cold, and it just feels like I've missed, like, where have I been all this time? It's so odd. But I'm always living in fear that the C. diff will come back, because it can, and I'm not allowed antibiotics for quite a long time because that will cause the C. diff to 100% come back. So let's just hope no one gives me any germs, because I can't take anything for it. Yeah, it's a tricky one. But I'll keep you updated how I am. I'll try and do some more videos now I'm home. And let me know if any of you have ever suffered with C. diff and what your experiences are with it. And don't forget to subscribe, because that way you will be able to follow my progress, and click the bell icon notifications so you know when I do make another video. And I promise it won't be such a huge gap. And thank you for all my new subscribers. I've had quite a lot this month, so thank you very much for that. And I will talk to you all soon. Bye.